The police intervene and they arrest the white man, the victim, and they allow the two black lads to flee the scene. Three simple questions for the police minister. One, does she consider this to be another appalling incident of two-tier policing?
Stay with me because the full video I'm about to show you puts everything into a new perspective. You know you've stumbled into one of those stories when you watch a clip once, then immediately watch it again because your brain is convinced you've missed something. You pause it, rewind it, squint at the screen like you're suddenly a detective on a budget and still end up asking the same question. Hang on, did that really happen? British politics has a remarkable talent for producing moments that leave people scratching their heads harder than someone trying to understand why the self-checkout insists there's an unexpected item in the bagging area. 1 minute, Parliament is discussing serious matters with all the formality you'd expect, and the next, there's a debate over a viral incident that sets social media ablaze. Everyone has an opinion, and half the internet has already decided the verdict before the facts have finished unpacking their suitcase. That's modern Britain for you. Put the kettle on, because this one certainly got people talking. Real quick before we roll the footage, if you're enjoying this content, do me a huge favour. Hit that like button and smash subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. Don't be one of them. It's free for you and it helps us out more than you know. Already clicked? You're awesome. Let's get into the video.
A white man on a night out in Birmingham is assaulted by two black men. The police intervene and they arrest the white man, the victim, and they allow the two black lads to flee the scene. They then call the victim a dick and they hit his head against a police car whilst they're sticking him in it. They then misrepresent what happened at the event, saying that it was a fight when actually it was an assault. And then they say absolutely nothing is wrong. Then the footage goes viral, as ever, and the police are forced to change their tune. Footage the police actually tried to suppress. Three simple questions for the police minister. One, does she consider this to be another appalling incident of two-tier policing? Number two, will she haul the acting chief constable?
Order, I'm on my feet. Mr. Jenrick, one question is normally enough, and I've given you the privilege of two. Minister. No, Mr. Jenrick, you know better. Minister.
Where things go wrong, of course, we must shine a light on those things. And there has been a huge amount of work over the last few years in terms of policing wearing, for example, body-worn cameras, publishing that evidence so that people can see for themselves, being quicker to speak publicly about what's happened in certain incidents. All those things are important, transparent changes that we are making to our police. But at its core, we need to make sure we are trying to bring people together through the reforms that will give people the policing that we all need.
The debate centred around an incident in Birmingham that rapidly spread across social media after footage emerged online. According to the account presented during the parliamentary exchange, a man alleged that he'd been assaulted during a night out before police officers intervened. The controversy wasn't simply about the original altercation, but about the police response afterwards, with claims that the victim was arrested while the individuals alleged to have assaulted him left the scene. As often happens with incidents that are captured on video, public discussion quickly moved beyond the event itself and focused on questions about policing, accountability, and public confidence. One MP wasted no time in describing the sequence of events as deeply troubling. He argued that the footage appeared to raise significant questions about how officers handled the situation. In his telling, the incident wasn't simply an isolated disagreement, but an example of policing decisions that deserved close scrutiny. He went further by suggesting that the police had initially characterized the event as a fight rather than an assault, before public attention forced further explanation. Those are serious concerns to raise in Parliament, and unsurprisingly they attracted immediate attention both inside the chamber and online. Of course, parliamentary debates often have their own rhythm, and this exchange was no different. Just as the questioning gathered momentum, the Speaker stepped in with a familiar reminder that one question is generally enough. Anyone who's watched enough sessions at Westminster knows that's almost become part of the furniture. MPs naturally want to squeeze in one extra point while they've got the floor, and the Speaker inevitably reminds them that the rules still exist. It's one of those traditions that somehow manages to be both incredibly British and strangely entertaining. Once order was restored, the Minister responded in measured terms. Rather than commenting directly on the specifics of the incident, she focused on broader principles surrounding policing and transparency. She acknowledged that when things go wrong, they should be examined carefully and openly. That point is difficult to argue with, because public confidence depends not only on officers doing their jobs properly, but also on institutions being willing to explain themselves when questions arise. The Minister also highlighted changes that have taken place in policing over recent years. One example she mentioned was the increased use of body-worn cameras. These devices have become an important feature of modern policing because they can provide evidence that goes beyond competing accounts from witnesses or participants. While they don't answer every question, they often help establish a clearer picture of events than relying solely on memory or conflicting testimony. She also referred to efforts aimed at improving transparency, including publishing relevant evidence more quickly and communicating with the public sooner after major incidents. Those developments reflect lessons learned from previous controversies where delays in releasing information sometimes allowed speculation to grow faster than verified facts. In the age of social media, that challenge has become even greater. Videos can circulate around the world within minutes, while official investigations inevitably take longer. That difference in speed creates a difficult balancing act. The public understandably wants answers immediately, particularly when footage appears dramatic or disturbing. At the same time, investigators have a responsibility to establish the facts carefully before reaching conclusions. Acting too quickly risks getting things wrong. Acting too slowly risks creating an impression that important questions are being avoided. Finding the right balance is rarely straightforward.
The wider discussion also touched on trust in policing, which remains one of the most important issues facing any democratic society. Police officers make difficult decisions every day, often under considerable pressure and with incomplete information. Most encounters never attract national attention, but when a controversial incident does emerge, it inevitably influences public perceptions far beyond the individuals directly involved. That's why transparency matters so much. People are more likely to accept outcomes they disagree with if they feel the process has been open, fair, and properly explained. One phrase used during the parliamentary exchange attracted particular attention, with questions being raised about whether the incident represented so-called two-tier policing. That's a politically charged expression, which different people interpret in different ways, and its use inevitably generates debate. Some see it as describing inconsistent treatment in certain cases, while others reject the label altogether. Whatever someone's view, it's worth recognizing that these are matters of public debate rather than established conclusions, and ultimately any specific allegations require careful examination based on evidence rather than assumptions. Perhaps the most striking feature of this entire story wasn't simply what happened in Parliament, but how quickly the public conversation developed outside it. Within hours, clips were circulating across multiple platforms. Commentators were analyzing every frame, and thousands of people had already reached firm opinions. That's become a defining feature of modern public life. News no longer waits politely for the evening bulletin. Instead, everyone becomes a commentator, everyone becomes a detective, and occasionally everyone becomes an expert, despite having watched precisely 18 seconds of footage between making a cup of tea and feeding the dog. There's something oddly fascinating about how these moments unfold. Someone uploads a video, another account reposts it with dramatic music. Somebody else adds captions in enormous capital letters. Before long, the comments section resembles a family Christmas dinner where everyone has forgotten to be polite. It's noisy, emotional, and occasionally someone metaphorically flips the table. Yet beneath all that noise sits a serious point. Public institutions depend on confidence, and confidence depends on accountability. When questions arise about police conduct, those questions deserve proper examination. Equally, officers and individuals involved deserve fair consideration while the facts are established. Those two principles aren't in conflict, they're part of the same commitment to justice. The minister concluded by saying that reforms should ultimately help bring people together and provide the policing that everyone needs. Whether people agree with every aspect of those reforms is, of course, another matter entirely. Healthy democracies thrive on disagreement, provided that disagreement remains grounded in facts, evidence, and respect, rather than assumptions or personal attacks. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson from debates like this. Viral clips can start conversations, but they rarely tell the whole story on their own. Parliamentary scrutiny exists precisely because difficult questions should be asked in public. Ministers should be challenged, institutions should explain themselves, evidence should be examined carefully, and where mistakes are identified, they should be acknowledged and addressed. That process may not always satisfy everyone, and it certainly doesn't move at the speed of social media. But it's designed to ensure decisions aren't driven solely by whichever clip happens to be trending on a particular afternoon. Sometimes patience feels deeply unfashionable online, yet it remains one of the most valuable qualities when trying to understand complicated events. As this story continues to be discussed, many people will undoubtedly hold strong opinions about what happened and what should happen next. That's entirely normal. But perhaps the most constructive approach is to keep asking sensible questions, pay attention to verified information as it emerges, and remember that parliamentary debates, while often lively and theatrical, are ultimately part of a broader process of democratic accountability. And if nothing else, Westminster has once again reminded us that no matter how serious the subject, there's almost always room for one determined MP to try squeezing in an extra question, one speaker ready to shut it down with impeccable timing, and one debate that leaves the entire country making another cup of tea while trying to work out exactly what just happened. In Britain, some traditions really are impossible to suppress.